Welcome, everybody. Nice to have you back. E-sponsor Kyte, Ian O'Neill, the Severe MMA Picks and Plays for the third time in 2023. January was not great. It was okay.
It was a dry January, Spencer. That's what it was.
It was okay. I mean, it could have been worse, right? We could have just not cashed any tickets. We could have had terrible picks. We didn't. But UFC 283, before we get into what we are here for this week, UFC Vegas 68, Derek Lewis, Sergey Spivak. We'll look back at the final event of January, which feels like ages ago now because we had a rare weekend off. You, sir, went 7-8 with your picks. You lost $22, down 51.50 for the year, but still have a healthy amount of money to play with. 14-12 thus far through two events with your picks. I went 8-7 to put me at 16-10 for the year. Lost $45, but I'm only down 38 and a half for the year because I had a little bit of success week one. And like you, still have a lot of bullets to play with. I'm spending a lot more this week than I thought I would, but that's because there's some heftier plays. Overall, how are you feeling about January? How are you feeling as we head into 8 straight weeks of you and me sitting here doing this, trying to catch some tickets and make some money?
This is the make or break stretch, isn't it, Spencer? We don't have any weeks off to forget about some of our woes from previous cards, but hopefully
no time to lick the wounds.
Absolutely not. But no, I'm looking forward to it and feeling good. Obviously, look at with the plays. I mean, the plays are the plays. Obviously, I don't like going through a card with a losing record, but it happens sometimes. But overall, for January, we're on a winning record. And I can't complain too much. That's the joys of it. And let's hopefully we can get back into a winning record for this card too. But
it's tough, right? This is one of those cards to me. So first and foremost, this is what I have always called a Spencer card. This is a card tailored for lunatics like me that watch the Road to UFC events, that know all of these athletes, because it was supposed to take place in South Korea. Obviously was moved to the UFC Apex. It is starting at a later start time to accommodate the South Korean audience. So prelims kick off at 7 p.m. 7 p.m. Pacific for me out here on the West Coast. So 9 for you in the prairies, which means you get a midnight main card start time. So it'll be interesting to see how you're feeling when the main event rolls around.
I'm ahead of you. So it's going to be, if you start at 10, that means I won't start here until 12, I believe.
That's what I just said.
Oh, did you? Oh, sorry. I thought you said the other way around. You said
no. The main card starts for me at 10.
All right, yeah.
Starts for you at 12.
Apologies.
No worries. I'm just making sure.
You know me with time zones.
All right. I'm just making sure I'm on top of things because we've got daylight savings and all of this stuff to factor in, and it's wild. But it should be. I think it's going to be an entertaining card. I think it's one of those cards where there's the possibility that we just get chalk all the way through. So I make my full card parlay every time we do this. This is one where it kind of feels like if it's ever going to happen, it might happen here because there's 12 fights. There's a lot of real chalky favorites that we'll get to. Fingers crossed. Of course, saying that now, we're going to get a whole whack of upsets, and I'm going to go like 4-8 with my picks. But we'll get to it. UFC Vegas 68, as I said, headlined by the rescheduled heavyweight bout between Derek Lewis and Sergey Spivak. Who do you like, and are you making any wagers, Mr. Ian O'Neill?
I like both guys in this fight, to be honest, strangely enough. And yes, I do have a play, and I'm going on a little bit of a hedge. I'm going to hedge my bets here as well, just to kind of doubly cover what I feel may happen. And look, we talked about on the preview show, we could be looking at a rejuvenated Derek Lewis, but there's still a lot of unknowns here. We don't know what way he's going to react inside there. Obviously, I can see if it's an early finish, I could probably see it leaning towards Derek Lewis. I could probably see Lewis winning by only knockout. To be honest, I can't see him grinded through and getting the decision win.
Can you imagine Derek Lewis just going 25 minutes here and just technical boxing, new svelte, mobile Derek Lewis just sticking and moving for 25 minutes.
Absolutely. If someone wants to present a ticket with that bet on it, and if it happened, show it to me and I'll buy you some dinner. That's what I'll do there. Look at my pick for this fight. I like Spivak as a fighter. I think he's good. I think he's going to be around in the top 10 of the heavyweight division for a little while, yeah, at only 28 years of age. But I think maybe, given the circumstances around Lewis, he's looking at this maybe as a fresh start. He has that little bit of fire in his belly, even though his belly isn't as big as it was before. I think he's going to come in here with a chip on his shoulder with a point to prove. And my pick for this main event is Derek Lewis to win. Not a super confident bet, and for my play, it'll kind of complement me not being confident, because I've went for two bets. I've gone for Derek Lewis to win by KO sub or DQ, pretty safe, just for a finish. At plus 225, we're going to go $10 at 225 will get you back 35. And my little hedge bet, my little cover bet, is Spivak to win in the second round at plus 500, which will give you a cool $60 back as well. So we'll see if it goes past round two, or I'm going to be in big trouble in this fight, I think, Spencer.
Yeah, so I have a lot of the same feelings as you, and we talked about it on the preview show with Harry, that Sergey Spivak feels like a guy that is still ascending, still figuring some stuff out, and we don't quite know where the ceiling is. This obviously is a fight that is going to help us determine that. Usually in these situations, unless you are a clear and dominant prospect, a real like standout emerging fighter, I'm going to side with the veteran guy. I'm going to side with the guy that I've seen win these fights before, and that's Derek Lewis. So that's my pick as well. In terms of the plays, I'm joining you on the $10 play for Lewis to finish at plus 225. I like that one. I like that return. You give me greater than plus 200 on Derek Lewis knocking somebody out. I'm 100% in. I also like the money line, just the straight up win ticket at $10 at plus 187, returns 28.70, double your money and then some. So if Derek Lewis gets it done, we're cashing both of those. And because I just, need to get as much in as I can, just a little $5 on Derek Lewis to win it in round one at plus 550 for a 32.50 return, and a little $5 just on round two in case we get to the second 5 minutes at plus 900, where 5 turns into 50. And so we'll see. We're both looking for Derek Lewis to get the job done in the main event to close out the night, bringing some money home to the boys. Best of luck to you, the Black Beast. We move to the co-main event. Da Un Jung and Devin Clark in the light heavyweight division. As we talked about on the preview show, one of those fights that doesn't necessarily do a ton in terms of the division. I think we are joint in still being a little interested in Da Un Jung just to see what he can do coming off a loss. He is my pick. I think he gets a victory on Saturday. But in terms of plays, this is one of many fights where I am just staying all the way away because I have no confidence in how this is going to play out. And so it's just pick Jung, keep the money in my pockets for other things. What about you?
Yeah, I'm along the same lines as you in my pick for Da Un Jung. I like him as a fighter. I like the way he moves forwards, and he likes to land his big shots. Obviously, look, it didn't work too well for him against Dustin Jacoby in his last fight, but look, he's going to come back in. He's going to come in rejuvenated, maybe with a little bit of a different approach. I wouldn't like to see him change up too much, although, he's just going to have a little bit more intelligence not to stand in front of a guy like Dustin Jacoby and just try and trade with a guy who's really good at striking. I don't think he's going to have the same problem against Devin Clark. I think Devin Clark is going to do quite the opposite. Actually, I think he's going to look to close the distance and try and take this fight down. If he does that, I think he'll be very successful and likely win. My opinion is, though, that I think Jung is going to stop him from doing that, and I think Jung might get him out of there, to be honest. But my pick is Jung. And I have Jung as part of a parlay that we will talk about a little bit later on.
I love these. These are my favorite. We're only 2 episodes now, 3 episodes in, and these are already my favorite. I cannot wait to see how these get built out.
Plenty of them today.
We move back to the heavyweight division. Marcin Tybura and Blagoy Ivanov in an all-European battle. Poland versus Bulgaria. What are your thoughts? What are your picks? What are your plays?
My thoughts are, I feel that overall Marcin Tybura is just the better fighter here. Blagoy Ivanov has been in there with decent competition. He knows what it's like to hang in there, and he's very good at doing that too. He's good at hanging in there and making fights that he's losing competitive. But I feel, like I said, I think Tybura is just a more well-rounded fighter. I think he's a little bit more athletic on the feet. I think he's going to move a lot better. I feel that this fight is going to play out in the striking department for the majority of the fight. I maybe Blago might try and close the distance and kind of take away some of the timing from Tybura a little bit. But my pick for this fight is Marcin Tybura. I think he's just a better overall fighter. I think he's going to be good enough to get the job done. And I've stuck him in a parlay that we will talk about a little bit later on too.
I tend to agree with the assessment. I think there's just a little bit more athleticism to Tybura, a little more variety in terms of the offensive arsenal than what we've seen from Blagoy Ivanov. As Harry pointed out on the preview show, lots of teeps up the middle, works behind the jab pretty well. He is a southpaw, can be tricky for guys at times. I think he gets the job done, but the point you mentioned about Blagoy Ivanov being able to just kind of make fights that he's losing close and kind of drag them out leads to my play, which is just $25 on Tybura to win by decision at plus 137. Like, I don't see him stopping Ivanov. He's a great big burly dude that hasn't been stopped in the UFC yet. Marcin Tybura isn't a big finisher. So give me the plus money on going 15 minutes. 25 gets you 59 and a quarter. I will take that every day of the week.
Love it. Love it.
We shift to the featherweight division. Doo-Ho Choi makes his return, the Korean Superboy, against Canadian Kyle Nelson. My pick here is Doo-Ho Choi. I think this is one of those fights that originally, when this card was set up to be in South Korea, was sort of positioned as a like, let's make sure we get the local favorite a chance to go out here and smash a dude. And I think Doo-Ho Choi, provided these 3 years that he's been away haven't been riddled with problems, that he doesn't look like a completely different person, and from his Instagram and all the sort of stuff we've seen leading into this, he looks exactly the same, because as our guy John Hyung Ko points out, Asians don't age. He still looks like the exact same dude. Shout out to JHK, by the way. I think Choi gets it done. And so for me, this is one of those ones where I'm trying to learn from some stuff you and I have talked about these plays and about this whole process that we're doing. And I'm just trying to get it in and get a nice return. So it's $50 on Choi to win, just betting the money line, minus 188. It returns 76.60. So you make a little bit of money on a fight that I think, 19 times out of 20, I think Doo-Ho Choi wins this fight, provided there's nothing we don't know about. And so I'm going to try to get it in and make half of my money back again. We'll see what happens. What do you think? It's
a smart bet, and it's something that I kind of tried to do on week one, and I've kind of fallen away from it, and I've not done it here, I have to say. I do fancy Doo-Ho Choi for this fight. I'm expecting him to come back and even like Harry rightly said on the preview show, I feel MMA does move along quite quickly, and his spell outside the octagon is a little bit worrisome in this fight. That's why I might be a little bit hesitant in maybe putting him in a big kind of single bet. I do fancy him to win. I think there's a big problem with Kyle Nelson, who is going to probably try and take this fight down. I think he'll probably be unable to do so. But there was a major problem that I seen that he did against Jai Herbert on the feet, and that was that he followed around Jai Herbert a little bit too much on the feet, and I think he might kind of set himself up for a massive fall here, because
if you do that with the Superboy, he's gonna
smash you. Yeah. So my pick for this fight is Doo-Ho Choi. And I believe my parlay, I'm going to put Doo-Ho Choi in a parlay that we will talk about a little bit of time.
Opening fight of the main card, Dana White Contender Series grad Yusaku Kinoshita against Adam Fugit in the welterweight division. You and I both really liked what we saw from Kinoshita on the Contender Series. Got a win over Jose Enrique, a great big, tall, but young, inexperienced, pretty green Brazilian fighter. Third round knockout, beautiful left hook, showed a lot of poise, showed a lot of understanding of sort of like ring generalship and command of the octagon for a guy that is only 23 years old and is only 7 fights into his career now at this point. He is my pick, but this is another one of those stay away fights because it's a 23-year-old making his UFC debut. Adam Fugit, I think, is solid, not spectacular, just a solid test. This is one of those ones where I just want to see what Kinoshita can do. Let him have a good performance. Maybe we'll bet on him next time out. What about you?
Yeah, I'm quite similar in my thought process as well. Kinoshita, I think for me, is for his age is so calm and composed in there. And that's something that really excites me in there. I think that going in here, he's the better of the two fighters. That doesn't necessarily mean he's going to win, because I think that Fugit has an awkward stance, an awkward style, and an ability to make any fight difficult for anybody, to be honest. But that being said, Kinoshita is my pick. My play, I don't believe I have a play for this fight too, because there are too many unknowns here. I think, that finish from Kinoshita in his last fight was unbelievable. Just after an eye poke, slipped, bang with the left hand. It was beautiful. And I think that that Fugit, I think he does throw some wild shots. I believe if he gets caught up into that, he's going to be in big trouble in this fight, where we could see Kinoshita maybe get the finish. It'll be interesting to see. My pick is the Japanese guy, welterweight, and I think he's going to get the job done, but not confident enough to put a play down on this.
Yeah, we saw Adam Fugit get stopped in the third round of his debut against Michael Morales, a similar Contender Series grad, very young, very early in his career. So we'll see if Kinoshita can do the same thing. Moves us to the prelims, the final of 4 or first of 4 road to UFC tournament finales, depending on how you look at it, whether you're going top down or bottom up. It is in the lightweight division. Jeka Sadeghi of Indonesia against Anshul Jubli of India. What are your thoughts, good sir?
My thoughts on this one is that when I first looked at it, I thought, the kind of gap in experience, I was unsure. But the further I looked into it, I think this is going to be a much closer fight than what I originally thought. My pick for the fight is I have my picks a little bit mixed up here, I believe. My picks for the fight would be the Indonesian gentleman. Excuse me, my notes are all kind of mixed up here. Apologies, Spencer. Sadeghi, I believe, he likes to come in. He does have a lot of finishes on his record as well. So I feel if the fight is going to finish early, he's going to be the guy to get it done. And I fancy him to kind of do that as well against Jubli, who, look at, is only 6-0, but is very good at what he does as well. But for I have my Pickford is Sadeghi, and I have him as the underdog in one of my parlays as well, which will really prop it up as well.
Yeah, I was actually surprised to see him become the underdog. So earlier in the week, this was a pick'em fight, both men at -110. And then when I looked today, it had switched over to Jeka Sadeghi being the underdog. He is my pick as well. 2 great finishes in his fights to get to this point. A spinning back fist against Pawan Man in the opening round, and then a beautiful right hand in the semifinal round. And I just think that the combination of his power and speed mixed with that added experience. And look, some of those fights and the fact that he's got, I believe it's somewhere in the low 20s in terms of fights, it's similar to some of these Chinese athletes that we've seen come over to the UFC very recently that are fighting in WLF wars and things like that, where they're fighting 2 and 3 times in a month or logging a bunch of fights in a short amount of time. But he does have that experience and it matters. He just has a different level of comfort inside the octagon. I also like the fact that he's got Mark Fiore in his corner. He's looked good so far. He's the underdog. So give me $10 on Jeka Sadeghi on the money line at +100. 10 gets me 20. Always love doubling my money. And then give me $10 on a finish at +175. 10 turns into 27.50. Jubilee went the distance, won by split decision last time out. It was a competitive fight. I just think there is something, when you see an athlete and you just sort of have that moment of like, there's just something here. I don't think that Jekasatagi is going to be a world champion. He's 28 years old. He's just getting to the UFC now, but there's just something about him. There's an electricity about him. And I think that carries over into Saturday. I think he gets another finish, wins his UFC contract. We get to see the flamboyance of him, and away we go.
I mean, for a guy to be the underdog who has all of his wins by finish bar one, that's something that jumps out to me at all. No matter what you think, this is going to be it could be a close fight. It might be. It's a lot of these road to the UFC fights. There's a lot of variables there. Guys young in their career making some massive jumps as well. But I mean, for me, at the very least, while I didn't bet it singularly, it's definitely a guy I was throwing in there to fucking prop up my parlay for sure. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. We move to the featherweight finale. Zhang Young Lee against China's Yi Jia. My pick here is Zhang Young Lee. He has been the guy that has had I don't want to say most impressive because we'll get to Rinya Nakamura next, and he has been my most impressive fighter. But if you're looking for the guy that is just like dominated his way into the finals, it's Zhang Young Lee. The Korean Tiger has gone out and won both of his fights in under a minute, just starching fools. He's won 3 straight fights in under a minute. I believe the third of those was a 10-second knockout. He's big, he's tall, he's powerful, looks good for this division. I just think he has too much for Yi Jia in this fight. But in terms of plays, I'm staying away because it's hard to bank on the guy that just wins fights in 46 seconds and 30 seconds and things like that. Certainly has the capability to do it. Could very well go out here and land another bomb and get another quick win. But I don't want to bank on it. The odds are not anything I like. There's no number that I really like. The juice is too much for the squeeze on some of the other props. And so I'm just going to wait, let it play out, see what happens, wish him luck, pick him and move forward. What about you?
I'm the same as you. I found a little bit of an opportunity that I could perhaps make some money in this fight. Not singularly. Look, I think Yi Jia, obviously, I think this is kind of quite the opposite. We kind of are contradicting ourselves a little bit here, where we kind of were leaning towards the more experience in the last fight, whereas that we're not so much here, but it's all based off performance, to be honest, for me. And to me, I think Young Lee, he has the touch of death. He has a wicked power, and he has his fight again, Zibin, he won by armbar. He kind of hurt him a little bit, kind of got him into the armbar position. He's just a finisher, and I think he's going to go out there and finish this fight too. So I'm very high on Young Lee. I think, obviously the variables are there. We haven't seen him go past 3 minutes and 30 seconds in recent fights, So if this goes to round 2, I mean, maybe all
bets are off. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe get on some live betting and see what it's up. But for me, I think he's probably going to click. He's going to clip Yi Jia. He's going to probably finish this fight early. I have him as my pick, and I have him as part of a parlay. A little bit of a sneak peek. It's a little bit of a road to the UFC parlay that I've got going on.
Can't wait till we get to it. We move to the All Japan Bantamweight final. Toshiomi Kazama against Rinya Nakamura. I love this fight. This is a fight that I am so intrigued by, so excited to see. There's versions of this. I have versions of this fight that I want to see. They are both grapplers at heart. Kazama wanted to be a professional grappler and decided I'll do MMA and grapple as well. Rinya Nakamura is a former under 23 world champion in freestyle wrestling. He, for me, has been the most impressive fighter through this competition, through these 4 weight class tournaments. I know where I'm going, but where are you going first, Mr. O'Neill?
Yeah, so I had remembered when you were watching the road to the UFC at the start, and you had been talking to me about Rinya Nakamura, and I would be of the opinion of yourself as well. I'm really impressed. I believe to be honest, my opinion on all of these road to the UFC fighters, I think Nakamura is probably the most polished one that I've seen so far. That's a lifetime of fighting at the highest level, obviously with his wrestling experience as well and representing his country. And it translates well into the cage as well, where, it's no secret what he wants to do. He wants to kind of close the distance, get you in a body lock and take you down to the mat and either pound you out or submit you. And I think it's going to be tough to stop him doing it in this fight too, to be honest, although I do feel that Kazama, may be able to fend him off for some spells, but I don't think it's going to be enough. My pick is Nakamura, and he is also a part of my little parlay I've got going on that we'll talk about at the end of the show.
Yeah, one of the other things that lends me to picking Rinya Nakamura and being so confident in his opportunity on Saturday is that Kazama got a walkover in the second round. So he beat MyT in the opening round. It was an upset facing a very experienced opponent, showed those good grappling chops, had a bunch of good sweeps, had a bunch of good wrestling and grappling exchanges to get that victory. But then his opponent missed weight in the semifinals by a number of pounds. They canceled the fight. He moves forward into the finale. And so I just think, combined with what you correctly said about Nakamura's poise and experience of competing at the highest level in wrestling, the transition into MMA has been seamless. It's crazy to me that he hasn't even been a pro for 18 months. And here he is on the doorstep of the UFC. But if you watch those two victories on his way to this point, it's a key lock where he just dominates from start to finish, does exactly what you said. Go in, body lock, we go down and grab your arm going home. And then
there's no rush, though. There's no rush there. It's like, I know this is happening and I'm going to let it happen. And it doesn't mean that it has to happen inside a minute. It's going to happen eventually. So he just, and that shows, like, it's crazy to me to see that from a guy who only has 6 mixed martial arts fights as well. That's something that you see from an experienced veteran. And I really am impressed.
Yeah, it's what we talked about. I remember with Gilbert Burns going into his fight with Neil Magny and coming out of his fight with Neil Magny, right? Gets that fight to the ground and he just takes his time and he transitions and he finds the right side and he gets to the right spots and he's constantly pressuring, but there's no hurry. There's nothing rushed. He's not chasing openings. He's waiting for the opportunity to present itself or to create it. Then in the semifinals, he just knocked the dude out. It was just a big right hand. So if you got that in your back pocket as well, let's go. Bantamweight is terrific. Yeah, I think this guy can be a part of the division. Like,
I'm really
not
excited.
saying he's going to be a champion, but get him in here and like, if and when he wins on Saturday, we don't have to do the training wheels. Let's get him in there with somebody interesting early and just see what we got. Cause I think he has the chance to be a pretty good addition to the division.
Harry is going to have a name on Tuesday when you record.
I hope so. That has been my favorite thing so far this year on takeaways. Like, it came out of nowhere. Yeah. Harry normally is the guy that like doesn't want to get into matchmaking conversations. And I don't know all of these people. And he started hitting me with that after the first event. And I was just like,
I love the two.
This is the best thing ever.
Yeah.
This is the best. I don't have to do all the matchmaking. Harry's sitting there and goes, I've got a name. And it's great. I love it. Check out the Severe Takeaways every Tuesday on this YouTube channel. Thank you for the plug, Ian. We moved to the flyweight division. We had the all Japanese bantamweight finale. We get the all South Korean flyweight finale. Sunguk Choi against Hyung-Sung Park. My pick here is Hyung-Sung Park. To me, he has been the more impressive of the two. He's coming in on 2 finishes. Choi is coming in on 2 decisions. I think they are different styles of fighters. As we talked about on the preview show, I think this is Park getting the opportunity to be the aggressor, to try to find some openings, to try to create finishing opportunities. Choi thus far has been sort of happy to counter, get into clinch situations, get into grappling situations, and see where he comes out. And that's not a knock on, not taking risks. You're in a tournament where you win and you go forward. And if you win the whole thing, you get a UFC contract. So there's a lot at stake. But I just think in terms of athleticism, explosiveness, overall skill set, I like Hyun-Sung Park a little bit more. And in terms of a play, I'm going $10 on Park to finish. He's finished both of his fights previous to this to get to this point. So you're going to give me plus 260 where $10 can turn into 36. I take that every day. And I may think about bumping that $10 up to something else later. But for now, it's $10. What about you?
We're a little bit conservative, all right, for now. But hey, look, you never know.
I mean, we're throwing 50s out on Duho Choi, so I need to pull it back in other places.
Absolutely, yeah. Look, at my thoughts are pretty similar to yours in this, and knowing a guy who's studied the road to the UFC with a fine-tooth comb, hearing what you were saying about these fighters gives me a little bit more of air of confidence in my picks as well. But that's the thing with Choi, you know. Fighting to win and fighting not to lose are different things. And I think we're going to see Park here fight to win. We're going to probably, what we have seen in Choi is him fighting not to lose. Now, like you said, when you're talking about quarterfinals and semifinals, you know, there's a lot on the line. So look at, if he comes in here with the same tactics, I don't fancy Choi to get the win here. If he opens up a little bit more, he might catch Park by surprise. We never know what might happen. That being said, my pick for this fight is Park. And I've added him onto the little parlay that we'll talk about at the end as well.
Well, we're now through the road to UFC, so we're getting closer to unveiling those parlays. But we've got 3 fights left, the first of which is in the flyweight division. Jeon Kim against Mandy Bohm. 2 female fighters that are struggling at this point in the UFC. Combined 0-6 record in their last 6 fights. Who do you like? And are you putting any money down on these 2 ladies?
I actually am, believe it or not, because within this fight, which is probably going to be a relatively low quality fight, but there's a lot at stakes here for both these women because it's likely that we're going to see the loser get the exit from the UFC. And that to me kind of adds a little bit of intrigue here. Look, with Mandy Bohm, obviously, we've seen her through the years come up in the European stages and fighting on Bellator. I honestly think that we haven't seen the true Mandy Bohm in there since she joined up the UFC ranks. She's fought twice. She's lost twice. And I'm not saying that the full-on Mandy Bohm is going to go and take out all the rest of the divisions, but like her performance in that last fight was not great, to be honest. And she's going to have to perform here. I do believe that she is. I think Kim, you know, likes to fight on the outside. Mandy Bohm kind of likes to wait around a little bit on the outside at times and utilize her boxing from time to time. I think if either one of these fighters commit, I would fancy Mandy Bohm probably to get off the more immediately impactful damage. I would like Mandy Bohm to kind of, when the distance is close, because what we've seen from Jeon Kim is that kind of wait, explode on the outside, explode from the outside in to get off her strikes. Very Lyoto Machida like in certain terms, where she will get off quick firing punches, but not super impactful. But if Mandy Bohm can time those, either with a straight right or a hook or whatever, or she can even time that with going into the Muay Thai clinch, I think that's where she does her best work. My pick for this fight is the underdog in Mandy Bohm, and my play in this fight is also Mandy Bohm. For some reason, I don't know, but just watching both of those fights, and I could be wrong, and we'll find out pretty soon. I just fancy Mandy Bohm to get the job done here. It'll be her second camp with Extreme Couture. She'll be a little bit more settled there. They will have kind of figured out what are the bases that she needs to work on. I think these women need to work on their output a little bit more, especially Mandy Bohm, because I do feel when she does land, she will cause damage. I think she's going to do it as the underdog. I think she's going to keep her job in the UFC. And I think, you know, a plus 250 on the underdog. This is going to be a close fight one way or another, I believe. And I think Mandy Bohm is too good of value for me not to pick her as the winner. A cool $20 will get you back 70 at plus 250. So, I mean, that would be a nice little bonus for a fight that's probably not going to be entertaining. I just made it a little bit more entertaining for myself.
I'm glad that we differ on our picks in one of these fights. It wouldn't have been a lot of fun if we both had the exact same picks all the way through. I mean, it would have been if we went 12-0, both of us, and then we could just high five. I'm on the other side of things. I'm taking Jeon Kim. For me, it's a little bit of experience. I think she's been in a couple of close fights. She is 0-4 in her last 4, but there's a couple in there at least one, the Priscilla Cachoeira fight, that you can make a case that she won that fight, so it wouldn't be a 4-fight losing streak. The other part to me, and this may be just recency bias and personal bias, I think Mandy Bohm looked terrible against Victoria Leonardo, who I don't think is a particularly great fighter, isn't necessarily somebody that I think is UFC caliber. And so at least give me the person that has gone 15 minutes with a couple reasonable fighters. I have no plays. I'm staying all the way away from this fight because it could be any number of things, including, as you said, not particularly entertaining. I will live vicariously through your wager and seeing if you come out ahead or I come out ahead, because this is going to be the fight that differentiates us. Because I think we're in lockstep the rest of the way.
We almost are, and I can't argue with that pick either, Spencer. What I'm betting on here is a complete change up in Mandy Bohm's style, in her mentality, and in her drive to want to win the fight. That's what I'm depending on here, because if she goes out and she performs like she has performed, I'm pretty confident she will lose this fight.
Certainly looked better outside of the UFC, and in those 6, I think it was 6 fights to get to the UFC, 6-0, looked good, just hasn't been able to perform yet. We'll see which of these women can break out of this slide on Saturday. Middleweight fight, Jung Young Park, the Iron Turtle, one of my favorite nicknames in the UFC, against Dennis Tululin. For me, this is Jung Young Park, just simply on a little bit younger, a little more willing to go out and engage. I think the fact that he's willing to throw hands and ready to throw hands gives him the advantage. Tululin is coming off a win over Jamie Pickett, who we've seen struggle in the UFC. Park has won 2 straight. He's had a couple moments of success. He's had a couple losses as well. But for me, I'm just going to side with the younger fighter, the slightly more athletic fighter, the guy that's shown a little bit of power, but there's 0 plays. This is another one of those fights where it's like, I don't know what's going to happen, so I'm going to keep my money in my pocket. I'm going to spend it elsewhere. I've got a little parlay myself coming up here briefly that will throw those extra bullets on. But give me Jung Young Park to get the win. What do you think?
Yeah, unfortunately, we had a little bit of difference of opinion in the last fight, but it's back to square one again. I do fancy Park for this fight for pretty much all the reasons that you stated as well. I think, going out there and kind of living by the sword and dying by the sword has worked for him, and it has not worked for him as well. But I think he's going to do the same. I don't think we're going to see any major change in his style or in his game plan. And I just think that he's just going to be better and kind of maybe smother Tululin as the fight goes on. You probably think Tululin's best chance is not to kind of stand and trade with him. If he is successful in getting the fight down, well, we don't know what may happen, but I fancy Park. I think he's still good enough in scrambles to kind of get himself back up onto his feet as well. But yeah, my pick is Park in this one, and like you, no plays on this. Not even a part. This fight wasn't even worthy to go into a parlay.
Not even worth a spot in a parlay. We opened Saturday's card in Las Vegas at the Apex with one of our favorite prospects in the UFC, Tatsuro Taira, against Dana White Contender Series alum Jesus Aguilar. Mr. O'Neill, what is your pick, and do you have any plays?
I have 0 plays for this fight because I went
because Tatsuro Taira is minus 1,200.
Yes,
as exactly. A favorite.
And I don't think that Bet365 were willing to even go into prop bets for this fight. They said, no, we'll give you the minus 1,200 and then you can deal with it after that. So if you want to win big, you got to bet big in this fight. I'm not putting any bets on it at all, but I am a huge fan of Tatsuro Taira. I think he's a phenomenal prospect in the flyweight division. I think he's got some big things ahead of him. And I honestly think, this is this fight has been set up for him, in my opinion, as a showcase fight for him to go out there and get another finish, get another highlight on it. Look at Aguilar I have him down as a buzzsaw here. That's why I kind of, he'll slowly chip away at you. And he has one thing that he wants to do. He wants to close the distance. He wants to double leg you. He wants to move into side control. He wants to either give you the choice for him to go into mount position or for you to turn your back so he can take your back and try and lock in a rear naked choke. If Taira can stop him doing that, he has no chance of winning this fight. I think on the feet, he leaves himself wide open. And if you could see my notes, I wrote I wrote the word wide in all block capital letters. And I think if he comes in here throwing shots from his grandmother's house, he's going to leave himself wide open for a straight right or straight left, whichever Taira wants to hit him with going in here. This fight is all about Tatsuro Taira. He's my pick. I have no plays for this one. This is, you know, a one that's almost too one-sided to bet on per se.
Almost. But if you're a degenerate like me, you find a way. I too am taking Tatsuro Taira. I think he wins this fight 99 times out of 100. I think he is one of the top prospects in the UFC. As I said, he was in my list on OSDB Sports earlier this year. I do think, however, this could be a case of a guy that's got a little bit of things that can not necessarily present dangers, but force Taira to work a little bit. And so I just like a little sprinkle, $10, Tatsuro Taira by decision at plus 187, 10 turns into 28.70, greater likelihood that he gets the finish. He is a finisher. If you look at his results coming into this fight, 12-0, probably a good chance that he gets a finish here. But just in case this is a little bit of growing pains, dealing with a guy that's a little bit tricky on the ground, can present some dangers, let's just see if we can't get a little bit of plus money on a guy that's minus 1,200 in terms of the head-to-head picks. Which brings us.
I'm going to, because as I said, I couldn't get up the prop bets on there's something going on at Bet365. But since you said I have got it up, so I'm going to go with a cool $20 just for interest at under 1.5 rounds for this fight for Tatsuro Taira to get the job done inside the distance. But I do get what you're saying here with Aguilar. Whilst he may not, in my opinion, have the skills to get the job done, he certainly does have enough to kind of make this fight awkward for Taira. And that's what you're betting on. I'm betting on maybe a little bit of awkwardness before we settle down and get the finish inside a round and a half. That's 20. I'm going to stick it in live here now, make it official. That's $20.
There we go.
At minus 110 for Taira to get the finish inside the distance, inside 1.5 rounds.
And so, Mr. O'Neill, that now brings us to the point of the show where you unveil these much discussed, much teased, highly anticipated set of parlays that you have created.
All right. So first of all, we'll go with the little road to the UFC parlay that I've mustered up here. Just the four finals. I picked my four winners there. No secret. I've mentioned them already. We're going to go in the flyweight fight. We're going to go with Hyun-Sung Park to get the job done in that one. We are going to go for Rinyi Nakamura. Park obviously is minus 188. We're going to go with Nakamura at minus 450. We're going to go with Young Lee to get the win at minus 250. And the little booster on this one is Jeke Saragai at plus 100 to get the win in the lightweight final. And Ansul Ghibli being defeated in there. So that's a cool four-way parlay that if you put $20 down will get you $84.86. So a nice little turnover on that. You know what I mean? I like that. I'm mildly optimistic about that one, but we'll see. But
it's a nice little accumulator.
Yeah. So we've also got another one where I'm going to go with my guy Yasaku Kinashita at minus 330 or minus 334. We're going to go with Martian Taibura at minus 138. We're going to go with Doohoo Choi at minus 188. So that's Taibura at 138 minus and Doohoo Choi at minus 188. And Da Un Jung to get the win at minus 250. So that's another four-way. I've left the main event out of it. I think I have enough bets. I've hedged the bet for there. We don't need any more. A cool $20 gets you $96.12 for that one as well. So we're going for a little bit of a four-way on the prelims and the first four fights on the main card as well. So yeah, that's it. I like those little parlays. It's tough to get one fight up in mixed martial arts. Let's be real. I'm hoping for two sets of fours here. That would mean I get 8 correct picks. It's more than likely under the laws of averages that it's not going to happen, but you're looking, we're going to have fun on the way anyway.
This is the difficult thing, because I have forever preached to my friends to just make straight bets. And yet here I am, like you, going to unveil some parlays. So I've got a 3-fight parlay, just combining guys that I think more often than not are going to win their fight. So it's Tatsuro Taira, Rinya Nakamura, and Marcin Tybura. Combined, those three kick out at plus 128. So $50 returns a profit of 64.19. So 50 becomes 114.19. And I mean, if you asked me gun to my head, I'm picking those three every time. We'll see what happens. I also have, as I will for every event, my overall main card, prelims, and full fight card $1 parlays. So on the main card, it's Derek Lewis, Da-Un Jung, Marcin Tybura, Duho Choi, and Yusaku Kinoshita. Those 5 gentlemen combine to a plus 1,279. So $1 gets me 1,280. On the prelims, it is Jekka Saragi, Jung Young Lee, Rinya Nakamura, Hyung-Sung Park, Jeon Kim, Jung Young Park, and Tatsuro Taira. That combines at plus 1,062. So it's pretty chalky. It's all chalk. And so $1 kicks back 1062. But it would also mean that Ian O'Neill gets his Road to UFC parlay cashed. And I'm here for that. And I think that number may have changed. I think I added this one up yesterday before Jekka Saragi became an underdog. So
yeah, they bet.
I'll go back,
and there's a lot of booster bets on as well. A couple of mine include booster bets on Bet365 as well.
We'll go and adjust. And then the full fight card, if you take all of my picks from this show, $1, they combine to be plus 15,924. So $1 turns into 159.32. As I always say, if we go perfect and we cash a ticket like that with $158 profit, I'll
have cigars at the ready.
We're good. It's not we're good for the year anymore, because this one isn't, great big numbers where we're getting into the triple digits as we have at some points. It's a lot of chalk on this show. But I mean, $1 turn into 160, certainly not gonna turn that down.
I'll take that any day of the week.
Exactly. It has been a lot of fun. I think this fight card is going to be a really enjoyable one. I know it's not high on everybody's list of priorities. The start time screws some stuff up. The unfamiliar names makes it a little less appealing, but trust me when I tell you, it should be good fun. Well, we've now added some spice into it with these wagers.
Doing this show, to be honest, even though, some of the fights may not meet the imagination, but doing this show adds a little bit more interest in it for me, adds a little bit more fun into it. So that's why it was always exciting to come on and do this with you. So always a good time. I love doing this show. It's always fun. We don't take it too seriously. And that's the way it should be. And that's the way everybody should be taking this when they're gambling as well. Don't take it too seriously. Don't gamble too much. And don't put down what you can't afford to lose, is the old famous saying.
As we always say, please wager responsibly. We will have the links, as always, in the show notes for responsible gambling and gambling help in Canada, the United States, the United Kingdom, and Ireland. Please check those out if you or somebody you love is struggling with gambling issues. Ian and I are not. This is all play money. Our missuses are not letting us have $2,000 bankrolls to actually do this. This is Monopoly money. This is Severe MMA bucks that I still haven't made. I need to make Severe MMA dollars. I will get there at some point. But this is the first of 8 straight weeks that we're going to be doing this IO. It has been a blast. I hope we do well on our picks. I hope we do well on our bets. It's the bets that I want more than anything. Because the picks, I'm pretty sure we're going to both come in above 60% for the year. And making the picks is one thing, but I want us to cash some tickets. So here's to cashing some tickets this weekend. I hope it happens for us. I hope it happens for you. Please check out everything that this man is doing over on Severe MMA, on the Patreon, on the YouTube page, hosting the preview. Follow him at IO'Neil MMA. He is an absolute stud when it comes to this stuff. And I love having him on the show with me. Follow me at Spencer Kyte. You know what I'm doing. Follow the YouTube page. There's all kinds of content from me every week. For Ian, I am Spencer. We love you. We appreciate you. We look forward to talking to you next week. Bye-bye, folks.